I just wanted to clarify something because someone wrote to me that they saw that I posted another video, and they said, Rabbi, I agree with you that abortion is murder. I don't know if I exactly said that. I think it can be murder under certain circumstances. And certainly, if we are willing to adopt what I was saying in the previous video that I'd seen elsewhere on the internet, this idea that semantically we should only call something an abortion if it's not medically necessary. If it's not really taken care of, if it's not a health issue, a mother's health issue, if it's for nefarious purposes, whether it be for convenience or the real nefarious purpose is eugenics, racism, trying to get rid, they spoke about how in some Scandinavian country, right, there are no more children with Down syndrome because they just abort them all before they get born. So, and if that doesn't send a chill down someone's spine, that's how they're going to deal with this issue.
In half a mile, sharp left to stay on Pennsylvania 33 North.
I don't know where someone's soul is. If someone thinks that is an appropriate way to handle things, and so too, they asked
sharp left to stay on Pennsylvania 33 North.
I think the moral question that a lot of people ask is, well, what if, I guess maybe a simpler thing
Continue on Pennsylvania 33 North for 16 miles.
What if someone specifically wanted to have a boy or a girl, and when they found out that they're pregnant, right, and they're having the other one, the one they didn't want to have, what if they just aborted that? Or what if, I guess the more kind of hot button type of thing is, what if there was some way to find out that the child was going to have a certain proclivity that might have some, might be a hot button issue in the world today. You know what I'm talking about. So what if someone said, oh, we were able to find out that was genetic, which it's not. But some people claim that it is, and they found that out, and then they decided, well, now that we know that this child has this proclivity, and let's say there's such a thing that it would be genetic, we'll abort it, right? Where it's something that's popular to the left to try to fight to protect, but someone would say they'd want to abort someone because they might have that proclivity. So these types of questions bring this up. What about these other things? So, and I think if someone, it might not necessarily be capital murder under the Mosaic Code, but it should at least feel in our hearts like a type of murder if someone would want to do something like that. Abort a child because something that the parents find to be undesirable. And so does that mean that, every abortion, should be allowed? I remember Rabbi Beck Berman was a guest speaker at the college at the same time I was, and he was discussing this issue, and he said, when it comes to abortion, you'll never find a rabbi that says all abortions are permitted, and you'll never find a rabbi that says all abortions are prohibited. It's a complicated issue. However, that's not what we're really discussing here in regard to the issues of these laws in American law. The real issue, the crux of all of these issues, is how is the Supreme Court deciding these things, legislating from the bench, essentially. And that's a fascinating thing because we don't really see Republican-appointed judges ever legislating from the bench. The reason why they're thinking that Brett Kavanaugh very well might not overturn Roe versus Wade is because the conservative judges are not about we're going to legislate from the bench things that the conservative people want. No, and the leftists on the bench are going to legislate from the bench the things that the liberal people want. No. Well, in that case, it is. That's the difference. Meaning that's the difference between the conservative judges and the leftist judges, which are not. It's not really liberal. It's leftist. Is that a leftist judge will do something that's not their job, will legislate from the bench, as opposed to a conservative judge will just do his job, his or her job of seeing whether or not you look at the Constitution, you look at the law, is this law constitutional or not? And that's the question. And it's not about, well, we're going to say it's unconstitutional now because we feel like it. That's what the leftists do. That's what they did with the redefinition of marriage. Again, that type of thing should have been up to the states to decide. And they just said, well, no, this is a freedom issue. This is an equal rights issue. It really isn't, because if someone would say, because we don't want to discriminate against a protected class of people. But the thing is, the truth is, you could very easily say, I only perform weddings between a man and a woman, right? And it doesn't matter if they identify as quote unquote straight, quote unquote gay. This whole idea of these of having a particular proclivity defines you as a different category of person is nonsense. But even if it were true, if someone would say, I will perform a wedding between a quote-unquote gay man and a quote-unquote lesbian woman, and I will not perform a wedding between two quote-unquote straight men, let's say they're not doing it for any sexual reasons, they're getting married for tax purposes or whatever it is. I now declare you, right, Larry and whatever, right? That was the movie about that, where the two men got married for tax purposes. With the guy from the King of Queens. That I never saw the movie, but I'm just saying, if someone's saying, well, they're two straight men, they want to get married for tax purposes, well, I can't do that. So then you're not discriminating against gay people, quote unquote, according to this ideology that the Western world has pushed in the last century or so, that there's such a thing as people having orientations, when people are really just people. And these artificial labels that they put on in order to divide and conquer are really nonsense. There's nothing in the Bible about people being quote unquote gay or quote unquote straight. That's not because that there's any lack of sexual minorities. Meaning the Bible recognizes an idea of eunuchs. The Talmud recognizes intersex people. These things exist. Eunuchs were very common, in ancient times, and intersex people is a very rare mutation, but it happens sometimes, right? Those are real things, right? But these other things that are just people's imagination, people are people. Anybody can do anything. Whether a person has a proclivity to one or the other doesn't make you a different category of person. And for that reason, no one should be discriminated against in a way that people should not be discriminated against. Meaning, if the whole question about making the cake for the gay marriage, right? If someone would say, "I don't serve your type of people around here," well, that would be discrimination. That, you could argue, would fall under things that are protected by the law or by the Constitution. To say, "We don't serve your kind around here." Granted, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying, "I'm happy to make you a birthday cake. I'm just not going to make you a wedding cake," right? For this wedding, it's not. I'll make you a wedding cake. I'm just not going to make a wedding cake that is with this design or whatever it is. I have artistic freedom and so forth. But these, and so yes, there is a place for the Supreme Court to look at, and the courts in general, the judicial branch in general, to look at these questions as to whether or not a certain thing would be a violation or not. But the the point I'm bringing out is that the leftist judges are the ones who legislate from the bench. We don't have right-wing judges legislate from the bench, and good, they're not supposed to. That's not their job. It's the job of the Congress to legislate, not the job of the judicial branch. It's the job of the legislative branch. So, there's an idea of the separation of powers. So, that's really what this thing comes down to, this question. With these, with these types of problems, that's really what it comes down to. All right. So it's not even the issue of, is abortion murder? Is it not murder? Is it this? Is it that? Oh, the question is, does the Supreme Court have a right to do this? Did they do the wrong thing, like they did during Plessy versus Ferguson and Dred Scott decision and all these other times, when we can all agree that the Supreme Court made a mistake? The court is not infallible. The court can make mistakes. That was part of the discussion, and so therefore, it's possible that Roe was a mistake, right? So that's really what the question comes down to. All right. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, subscribe, comment. And then meaning they weren't doing their job. They were legislating for the bench instead of merely deciding whether or not a case is constitutional. I mean, that if you study the history of Roe versus Wade, these people were used and abused to get the will done of the left, and there's been a stain on the courts for a long time. You're really, going back to FDR and further, and this whole idea of judicial review, it's a very shaky thing. The Jefferson was afraid of the tyrannical oligarchy of the judiciary and unelected oligarchy. Obviously, that's what oligarchies are. And if they start legislating from the bench, so they should be nonpartisan, they should be independent, but they should also do their job, and they should also face consequences if they commit malpractice. So Thank you very much for watching. God bless. Please like, share, subscribe,
One.
comment. See you later.